A lot of you knew my father at different stages of his life. Well, whether he's, like you said, born in February of '38 in Antioch, went to school here, and I didn't know much about his high school days. I know he loved Nick Rodriguez. I know he loved Ray Harrington. And I know whenever he got in trouble, there was always a good story. And as he got older, it was always this story about, I remember one time, Ketchum and I, or one time, Ketchum did this, or Ketchum did that, and it was always a good story, and he couldn't get it out. And it didn't matter how many times he told the story. I laughed as if it was the first time that I ever heard it. Even if he changed the story a little bit each time that he told it, it was still a pretty good story. My dad was a fairly good athlete as he was young. You can see some stuff up here from the asparagus bowl. He got ran over by a car when he was 15. So it changed everything in his life through high school. And if you ask him about his high school days, I don't remember much. I know somebody dropped the ball. I know that somebody didn't wear the right swimming uniform, and something happened then. And those were all good stories, but he never told me the whole story, and I'm sure some of you know. I also know that pound for pound that Donnie Hall was the best athlete that ever won. He should have been the first one in the Hall of Fame. Every year, my dad would call me and complain about who they elected in the Hall of Fame. I said, Dad, that was the first African-American that played for Antioch. He'd say, so what? Ray Herrera should have been elected. All right, Dad. I know when the Hall of Fame's election are, even if I don't pay attention, because you're going to call and complain because of who didn't get in, not who got in. But that's just the way my dad was. Now, after high school, we know that he met my mom. He had a nice car. He met my mom. We know they got along at least 3 times. We also know, and not too many people know the story, my mom was coming out of an operation in 2009, and she introduced my stepfather, Stan, as her husband, Howard. So the guy made a huge effect on people's lives. Even 40 years later, don't worry about it, Mom. But I started living with my dad when I was about 7 years old. And it was kind of cool to have him pick up the ball, and today they'd probably call CPS on him. Because I spent a lot of time at Hank's Sport Club. Matter of fact, I quit drinking by the time I was 8. In the back at B&M Bar, I remember sitting back there at Bill's Liquors, and all the guys coming back, and I thought I got a name. Watching the 11 o'clock news with my dad while everybody else was in bed by 11. Learned a lot of stuff. Learned stuff about competition playing in Pittsburgh. You better check the Pittsburgh paper because they're going to change the schedule on it. I know you all remember that. In the Phil-American tournament, you better pay attention or they'll put you in a bracket with Brothers of the Ghetto and American Realty. So even in spite of that, they won a lot of championships. And I learned a lot there growing up with my dad. They call them life lessons now. We never had that father and son talk. But as a kid, I learned when Kenny Lyons was at home plate and you were with Melody TV, you better not try to run him over. That was the best fight I ever saw as a kid. I learned don't hang around with Jim Schultz. Don't listen to what J.D. Flutie says. But Jim Schultz always had a good story. It might not have been right or politically correct, but the guy always spoke the truth. So I learned a lot then. We grew up, and I can remember my dad was playing Sure-Fit Door Company. Fly a ball out to left field. Bill Kelly makes the catch. The throw to the plate, all my dad has to do is catch the ball. Game's over. Right in the glove. Bounced out. I'm mad. We get in the car, I don't say anything. Because you know how important things were. We get in the car, and on the way back, I don't say anything. My dad says, what's wrong? I said, man, hit you right in the glove. He didn't say nothing. About a minute later, he said, hey, I got $1 if you want to go get some baseball cards. I said, hey, Dad, it's $1.10 with tax. So I went in there and I got 11 baseball cards, and they let me slide on the 11, but you used to be able to get 10 for $1 and a stick of gum. So I got me 11 sticks of gum that looked like tobacco in the side of my mouth, and I was happy. Never brought that up again until he said something to me years later. So I had a great time there. Learned a lot about championships. Learned a lot about competing. Learned a lot about loyalty to his family, his brothers, the people that played on it. And I remember that. I also learned how to forget stuff. Like when he finally went to Antioch, and they broke Markio's 81-game win streak, and the final out was made by a ground ball by my Uncle Stan, who had left the team and gone to play for Markio's. I'll never bring that up again. But it was nice. It ended the losing streak, and to this day, when I look at my Uncle Stan, I always remember. Come to Antioch, watch them win some slow-down basketball championships. I'd like to blame the time that they didn't win on Mark Jackson, but that's not fair to everybody who still loves Mark. But my dad knew the importance of a big man and how important it was to play. And he always played with his family. Whenever there was an opportunity, whether it was a good point guard like my Uncle Denny, it was always fun. When I started to go to junior high school, my dad was always there for me. Didn't have to be at the school. Because you all know him as Mr. Getch, I know him as Dennis Getch. He was a reach counselor, and he was the one-man dean. Because whenever I got in trouble, I didn't see Mr. Babcock. I didn't see Mr. Fry. They sent me to Dennis Getch's office. And he said, hey, look, I don't want to do it, and I don't know how to put this, but your dad said I can just knock you on your ass if you want to. Dennis Getch was a big man even then. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot about people. I learned about getting along. If it wasn't for my dad, I don't meet guys that who I'm looking to right now, and I know if Burke was here, I could look up and I could see Burke, and he'd be calming me down right now. The Hank Rooney's, the Orville Getchers, the guys who gave me the microphone, not because of me, but because I was my dad's kid. And I was able to use that and go work in sports and work PA stuff and do boxing fights and have a very unsuccessful run working in minor pro hockey because of my dad and the opportunity that people gave me back then. But when I was a kid, I didn't want to be a pro baseball player. I wanted to compete like the late Mike Torres. I wanted to have hair. And if you see by the pictures there, I waited 30-something years like Mike Rodriguez. I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be cool like Vic Gonzalez or Tony Reese. And that reminds me, when I got in trouble as a kid, my dad didn't block me on Facebook. He didn't take my cell phone from me. He didn't take me out of his top 8 on MySpace. He did one of the worst things that he could ever do. At 16, you all seen the movie Barbershop. It wasn't like that. I used to hang out. I didn't hang out with my friends. I hung out at Tony's Barbershop on 10th Street. I could go there and hang out and be cool and see things that today I don't even want to talk about. I met a lot of people at Tony, and I learned a lot about life sitting in Tony's Barbershop by not saying anything and listening. My dad taught me about loyalty, too, and how much it meant. I remember when Mike Torres left and he went to go play with Snappies. Man, I was mad because that guy could compete. Next day, my dad calls me and says, hey, when you get home, I need to talk to you. All right, you have to come get me, Dad. So, comes picks me up at Grandma's house. Got some great news. We got Tony Reese. I was like, oh, yeah, we got Tony Reese. So they took Rich Yeager, my cousin Bill Waldron, and it was all like that the whole time. And I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the people that I got to meet. I enjoyed the competition. I enjoyed not watching my dad get mad. Except for one time they were playing Russell's Real Estate. The bases were loaded. They were down by 1, bottom of the 10th inning. They walked Bob Ahmed. I think Rowley's on second. Bill Kelly somewhere. There's a ground ball to third. Nobody runs. Nobody runs. Triple play. And not a triple play that was just like instantaneous. It was a triple play that just finished like 10 minutes ago. It took forever. My dad was so mad, and I was just standing there. Let's go. Didn't say a word the whole time. I started, hey, Dad, I don't want to talk about it. Hey, Dad, I don't want to talk about it. But it's good. Sports meant a lot to him, and so did his family. So did watching. Like, as he got older, I can remember some of the stories that he would tell me. I remember I got a baseball when I was 10 from Butch Roundsville, who was my idol for a long, long time. Especially after I read Ball 4. I was 11 years old. It was the first novel that I ever wrote. Talked all about baseball. And I just thought that was so amazing. And then to have Butch still be a part of this so many years later, and later to meet Rowley and everybody else that played on my dad's team. It all meant a lot to me. You know, and as I left and I went to Korea and Germany and Canada and everywhere else trying to find something, I realized that the best time of my life was the time that I was growing up with my dad. And as I called back to him and I said, Dad, how you doing? Not too good. Little Ricky should be playing quarterback. Dad, how you doing? Zan should be on the infield. Hey, Dad, yeah, Tori just doesn't shoot enough. I said, all right, Dad, I appreciate that. I'm also in Canada. This ain't all free cell phone calls or anything, but I listen to it. And I listen to him complain. And so many times when you call and you ask him about somebody, whether he went to Las Vegas, And he was bragging because I had one cousin that should have been a diplomat, one cousin who's an entrepreneur in the for in and out, and then another cousin that one time opened up an umbrella in the car. I don't remember his name, but he opened the umbrella up like twice while he was driving. And that's all my dad could talk about. I haven't met these people, I haven't seen them in 15 years, and all my dad could do was complain about him opening the umbrella. But Judy and Ron and Sis, they opened their house to him, and he was able to go up there, and as I like to say, he got a chance, another lease on life, and see somebody else's kids. As he got older, wasn't the same dad that you all know, the one joking around and everything. You could just tell he knew he was going. But in their time, the last conversation that I had with my father, and I'm always, I guess you could say, I'm kind of like my dad. I'm always bad about something, even if it's not important. And I called my father. He said, "Hey, don't worry about me. Everything's going to be all right. You stay in Texas. Don't worry about it." Next day, my father had a stroke. My brother called me. Thought about it for a day. As soon as the bank opened, just started driving out here. And I was lucky enough, if you consider it lucky, to watch my father pass. And it reminded me of everything that he had done and the times that I dropped the ball, and he was still there for me. It didn't matter how many times I dropped the ball, he was still there. And if there was an argument, it was short, quick, and I'd have Debbie or my sister or somebody call, ask my dad something, and if he wasn't mad at me, I'd call him back. But I'm glad his last couple of years that it was rough. It was rough for my sister for 3.5 years. Every weekend, 3 times a week, my brother making sure the hamburger wasn't too big that you got it. But it was nice to be able to pick up that phone. As I miss my dad, it's not so much my dad in person, it's having the ability to pick that phone up. "Hey, Dad, how you doing? I didn't expect you to call. The Warriors lost last night." "All right, Dad." "Hey, what's going on with Billy Bean?" I say, "Hey, Dad, can we just talk?" "No, because you normally only call me after a win." Right down. It'll be last time that I had this bad thought in my mind. Because from here on out, everything's freaking gravy. He's in a happy place. He's got his stuff. If he's cooking in heaven, he's got Spam. Now, my brother knows about that. He's got his remote, the most important thing in his life other than my sister in his final days. He even got post-its from my stepmom, Molly, to write another note. I think she invented them. Wash your hands, Howard. Got his cell phone, and I can still see him now. "Don't worry about it, Howard. I'll call for you." Got it wrapped around his neck so he couldn't lose it. So when you come up here, I don't want you to be sad when you look at all this work that Alexandria did and these posters and these pictures, some of which had your names on them. I tried to get as many people and many memories in there. But I can say, Dad, thank you. Not for anything you gave me of material, but thank you for the people that you surrounded me with. Thank you for your baseball team. The guys that took me under their wing. The guys when I went to Germany, I could always remember playing, and everything always reminded, or coming back. And final story, I never thought my father knew anything I did in high school, which wasn't much, obviously, if you looked at my GPA. But I used to go after work to Straw Hat Pizza, and I'd get myself a beer. And I went there from the time that I was 17 to the time that I joined the Army. Couldn't wait to come home from Germany. I'd been drinking some strong beer when I was there. So I come back, I'm going to take my Uncle Denny, and I'm going to take my dad, and we're going to go get us a beer. I think it was Straw Hat. They come up, and I ordered, I got this. And they say, "Can I see your ID, please?" My Uncle Denny starts laughing. My dad said, "Jesus, he's been drinking here since he was 17. So anyway, I didn't get a beer at that time with my dad, but it's something. When I came back, I didn't seek the people that I went to school with. I always seek to see the people that my dad brought me up with, be it a cousin or an uncle, and I didn't know cousins. I mean, I grew up in Lido Square in the ghetto, all right? And my dad picked me up, and he took me to to the barrios of West 17th Street, whether it was the Roaches or the Aradios or the Sotos, and we lived good. Heck, I didn't even know I wasn't Mexican until I was 13. And I enjoyed that. The radios, everybody was good. Everybody was awesome. And I, like I said, I appreciate each and every one of you for coming. My cousin Dennis Davis. When I was a kid and there wasn't, my grandmother had one of her other grandkids who thought they were her favorite that weekend because she had that way of making you feel. I'd go stay with my Aunt Dina and Uncle Bruce. And their lovely son Dennis there, who to this day, I don't ride a motorcycle. If I go on an ATV, I only drive 5 miles an hour. I don't chew Copenhagen. I don't drink. And I don't talk smack. That guy right there would tell some of the meanest stories at night, and I pass those on for generations. And I think back on, he'd tell you a scary story, he'd open the window up. He'd go to sleep. And at the end of it, at the end of the day, I appreciate them as well. I thank each and every one of you for coming. Bless my relatives who are no longer with us. Thank you, Dennis Davis, for sharing a lot of good times when I was a kid. And thank each and every one of you for coming out today. My father would be truly appreciative as long as you didn't put it on Facebook. Thank you. All right, if you have a program in front of you, I'd like to ask Butch Roundsville to come up, then Jim Schultz, then my cousin Cindy's going to read a poem. My brother Rick, Lori, and Pete are going to share quick stories. And once again, I appreciate it. Butch, come on up.